So this week's insight is going to be a little bit different because it's actually starting with a pronunciation lesson. In car with me is the director of Volvo in South Africa. Greg, let me get this right. Say it?
Maruszewski.
Maruszewski, and I'm assuming that's not South African.
It's Polish.
Polish. Aha, hang on. So are you like the pole star in South Africa? Would that be right?
I haven't heard that one before, but you could say that, yeah.
Yes, we've got something original. I'm very impressed. Well, so background, were you born in South Africa? Greg?
No, I was born in Poland, obviously. My parents emigrated to South Africa when I was about 10, so I grew up here.
Yeah.
And so even though I've been with Volvo a couple of markets around the world, for me this is home.
It's actually cool that you view South Africa as home, but you've said you've worked with Volvo obviously for many years and in various markets, but were you always a car guy? I mean, growing up, was that something that you aspired to? Did you have posters up on the wall?
I think, as a boy you always have the exotics and the supercars, Ferraris and things like that on your wall. For me, I enjoy motorsport, so from that perspective I like cars. Yeah. But I think for me the first passion is business.
Of course.
To combine the business with the motor cars, I think the first prize.
What was that? I mean, what did you study then growing up?
BCom.
BCom,
yeah.
And was that what you had in mind? Like, let's do business, and I'd like to link into the motor world. Was your first job related to the motor industry?
The first job first couple of jobs were all finance related. Yeah. Different sort of finance, management accounting, cost accounting, financial accounting, and then I did internal auditing for a car company, and that's where it started. It was still the Billy Rutenbach and Wheels of Africa.
Okay.
So that's where it started, and then when he got the Volvo car franchise, I went to head up the finance division there, and then things happened. Volvo car took over in South Africa. I did finance first and then onto the MD position.
I imagine, Greg, it's actually a really cool position to be in, having that finance background, because we sit and drive cars and they're exciting and they're emotive and we love cars, but to run the business successfully in a market, you've got to understand, number one, the market and the business model. Has that put you in a unique position compared to other directors and CEOs with other brands, do you think?
I think it helps. If you have the financial perspective, obviously it's more business related. You can't just be numbers orientated, because at the end of the day, it's
you're selling an emotion.
It's a product, yeah. So for me, even though I'm finance background, customer experience is very, very important, and it's one of the things that we are focusing on already for last year, but also for the next couple of years as well.
Listen, I mean, it's exciting hearing you talk about what Volvo is doing, especially in South Africa. I mean, globally, it's always been a fantastic brand, with it becoming, by Sweden, for the world. The product that's been coming out has been really amazing, but South Africa is a tough market in terms of perceptions on the Volvo brand. How do you view the brand?
Well, I think because of my experience from around the world, I have a broader view than just the South African market. I think in South Africa, the brand is very much appreciated. That safety has always been there, the perception of safety. I think we do have some concerns from the customers that we're trying to address. And when I started here 18 months ago, we've put this plan together to try and get our perception of the brand in South Africa on par with the rest of the world. And that's what we're busy with now. So we have a 4-year plan. We're 1 year into it, and I think it's a success.
Everywhere else in the world, safety is a strong selling point. But in South Africa, it's how does a car look, and performance is kind of the first things that drive a purchase. So that's what I suppose has always been difficult for Volvo, but with your product lineup now, it's sexy. It's a whole new look, and I think that is what's exciting consumers.
Sure, and the performance is there as well.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned the Polestar car, but even in the normal cars which are not Polestar related, like the T8, it's a very exciting car to drive. It's safe, but it's a good performance of a good car.
XC90, I suppose, is what turned the brand around in South Africa in terms of, wow, having a look at this. Now you back it up with S90, which is what we're driving in now. Beautiful car again to look at. It is Volvo, no mistaking that, so there's a uniqueness to it. But what is your best thing about the S90 if you were to sum this car up?
I think for me, it's first of all the design. From the outside, it's a sleek car, it's wide, it's long. It's something that's different for Volvo. If you look at it from the back, but also the seating position, it's so different to most other cars. You sit quite low down, and you've got this perception of control.
And I mean, you sit and you think, how is a 2-litre turbo, whether it be petrol or diesel, going to power cars like XC90 and now S90? But I mean, it does it effortlessly. And I suppose that is the future. We've got to get used to small capacity turbos.
Exactly right. All our cars are 2-litre 4-cylinder cars, but the performance that you get out of it. I mentioned the T8, which is obviously the top of the range, but also when you go down to the D5 and T6, it's good performance. I'd say on par with some of the 6-cylinder cars, but the fuel consumption and the emissions are much lower.
Talk to me about those markets you've worked in. What has been the most challenging work environment, and what is, I suppose, the toughest thing about being the boss? 2 questions.
I don't know about the toughest. I think that what I enjoyed the most is this whole cultural approach. Yeah. So when I worked in Dubai, there we had a whole mixture of cultures. Yeah. So and I think each culture wants to be managed in a different way and led in a different way, which poses its own challenges. Then I was in Czech Republic, which is you have a whole office full of one culture, and then I come with a totally different approach. I was in Austria as well, and you think it's only 300 kilometers away from from Czech Republic, but it's a totally different culture.
Totally different, yeah.
The people are much more quiet, very well organized. I was also responsible for the Eastern Europe and Southern Europe, Central Europe and Northeastern Europe. And 18 odd countries, and if you look at those people, different days in different offices, it's a totally different approach to the business. The same concern, but a totally different way of doing things.
I suppose it gears you up perfectly, when you look at the world we live in now. I mean, it's a global brand, Volvo, so being able to take those little bits of knowledge that you learn dealing with all those different markets really puts you in a unique position, because South Africa is that. We've got that melting pot with so many different cultures and perceptions when it comes to brands and consumers and what they want.
Correct, and you mentioned the most challenging market. I think South Africa is the most challenging, simply because for Volvo at least, there's not just one aspect that we need to address. There's a couple of things that we're looking at, and we've got to do it all at the same time.
Yeah. And the hardest thing about being the boss? I mean, look, it must be great to pick whatever car you want to drive whenever you want to drive it. Great, I'd love that. But what is the hardest thing about being the boss?
I think it's to say no, in whatever way. We have a lot of good ideas, but you can't put all of those good ideas into one execution, and you've got to be able to say no, not today or not this time, or let's rework it. And I think when people put their hearts and efforts into something and you say no, that's not pleasant.
So I'm going to hit you with a really difficult one now, and you've got to take your Volvo cap off. So if you didn't work for Volvo and someone said to you money's not an option and you could go and buy any car, new, classic, anything, what would you buy? Can you answer that? Are you allowed to?
I guess so, if I knew the answer. Only one car?
Yeah, I mean, that in itself is a good answer, because I get asked it all the time, what's your favourite car? I mean, it's impossible to answer.
I think it's difficult. Well, I enjoy driving.
What was your first car?
My first car was a Ford Escort XR3.
Oh, there we go. Performance, eh?
A nice red one.
It's like, it's like, look, you're petrol-head through and through, so that I like. But I mean, in terms of ultimate, would you get something that's old school? No. Or is it the future that...
I like classics, but I like the technology. I drive the XC90 most of the time, and I enjoy the performance together with the versatility of it. So you get a big boot, you can put the dogs in, the kids play cricket, you can stick the gear in, we do some go-kart racing, whatever you want to do, it's there.
Some really exciting stuff to look forward to. Kind of new product every year. That's what you're trying to push towards?
We said at the beginning of 2015 when we launched the XC90 that every year we'll introduce at least one new product. Yeah. We've stuck to the timeline, so S90 is the second car, and there's a lot more coming up in the pipeline. Looking forward to it, actually.
Company's in good hands. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
That was great.